Well, very good afternoon to you all from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Road America, the fourth round of the 2025 World Racing League Championship season. This is DriversEye Live. This is the Can-Am Endurance Cup. My name is Brendan Kazmarek, joined this afternoon, morning as it is in his case, by Ryan West. Hello, Ryan.
Hi there. How's it going, everybody?
Well, thanks for asking. Happy to have everybody's company for, I think I'm right in saying this, just the third ever standalone qualifying session for the World Racing League. Of course, used to qualify by aggregated times through through a full day of practice and practice qualifying sessions. Now just a single standalone 30-minute session to set the grade for tomorrow's 8-hour enduro. And then, of course, the 7-hour finale to come on Sunday as well. The conditions this afternoon, Ryan, I think last year you were here, it was like 70 degrees and sunny and very, very pleasant. It is still reasonably pleasant outside, a little bit more brisk, just about 49. It is.
It was windy and gray and starting to rain.
I remember it being sunny and like warm, but also windy. No, I thought it was warm.
It was miserable going out to service cameras.
All right. Anyway, this weekend it's a little bit on the chilly side, at least today. It's the coldest day of the weekend, 49 degrees at the moment. Reasonably windy and also spitting with rain, which may just throw a little wrench into things through this half-an-hour qualifying session. If the rain keeps like it is, it should be a completely dry track right through the 30 minutes. If it picks up at all, watch out, because times may start to go out from under our GP and GT cars, our GTO and GTU cars, such as it is. They head out of turn 14 for the first time up towards a waving green flag at start-finish underneath the new drive-over bridge here at Road America. And down the longest straightaway of them all, top speed into turn number 1, something like 150 miles an hour in these GT4 adjacent GTO cars, Grand Touring Open cars. We'll head down through turn number 1, a fourth gear corner for most of them, and head through these double rights onto the long back straightaway into arguably the best passing zone on the track down at turn number 5. Not so much a concern here, where Ryan, the goal is going to be to try some open track and get some quick laps in.
Yeah, so I'm really curious here about the change in track type. So the first couple tracks of the season, I think lean handling track, but are generally pretty even. And then we were at Mid-Ohio, which is very much a handling track. And now we've come back to here, Road America, one of these tracks that has all the great big long straights. And so cars that maybe were having a little bit of a difficult time trying to find the lap time last time out might have a much easier time here. I'm really interested in here in qualifying to see the ebb and flow between cars that maybe settle up a little bit better for handling versus cars that are a little bit better in a straight line. So, of course, you've got the Mustangs and the BMWs, very, very powerful, versus the GTU cars that are a little bit less power but can keep on it through the twisty stuff. And there are some kind of broad, quick corners here at Road America where you'd want to keep your foot in the throttle as much as possible.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting points about Road America. You think of it as, 90-degree corners and long straightaways, so you're maximizing top speed and trying to keep your braking zones as short as possible. But actually, those 90-degree corners, bar just one or two of them, are fairly quick. Turn 1 is still a third or fourth gear corner. Turn 3 is still a third gear corner. Canada corner, yes, okay, you're approaching it very quick, but there's so much runoff on the outside, you can actually open up the radius fairly well. Carousel's a quick corner as well. It does tend to favor the straight line speed here at Road America, but you've got to be good just about everywhere.
Yep.
And to that point, we kind of get to see that here on display in this first qualifying session. GTU cars lighter, more nimble, less powerful. They run at 9-to-1 power to weight, which is of course the same number as the GTO cars, but they're weight restricted, which means also in practice power restricted. And you really do see that here at the end of the front straightaway, where the GTU cars might hit 130, 135. The GTO car is doing something like 15 plus miles an hour quicker than that. And yet, by the end of the lap, they all seem to find each other in terms of overall pace. First lap's being complete for the moment. I'm going to switch over to Race Monitor and get the sorting proper.
And we did just see at the end of at the end of that last shot, we did just see one of the Ginettas coming out, one of the Moorhead Speedworks cars coming out of the pit lane, and that's kind of one of the cars that I'd be interested in seeing. That has a little bit less power, but weighs a lot less, and probably has a little bit more aero advantage through
more
these
to come on that car.
corners.
Yeah, more to come on that car in just a moment.
Yeah,
or that team anyway. ACP Tangerine Associates number 2 sets the quickest time, first lap out, 2 minutes 20.874. Is your provisional pole time in GTO. Second place overall, and the GTU pole sitter is the Roberts Motorsports number 109. That is the sort of maroon burgundy colored Sebeco NP01, 221, 248. So just like we were talking about, Ryan, yes, deficient in terms of overall power. Yes, a little deficient in straight line speed, but at the end of it all, they're under half a second off of the provisional overall pole time set by the GTO class leader.
You know, I think that balance of performance change, call it, you know, whatever you want, that they made to the GTU class overall, to be clear. Giving the GTU cars that little bit of extra power and or weight back. Was it last season or the season before that they made that change?
It was the season before.
It was the season before.
Yeah,
I think that
end
is
of 2023, beginning of 24.
Right.
Last year, GTU ran at 9 to 1.
Correct. I think that has been really good for the class and has meant that these cars can be, you know, within a few tenths, even at tracks like this, like Daytona, like here, where again they are down on power, but they are pretty light and they can do the handling quite well. It kind of keeps them a little bit better out of the way on the straights of even some of the GP1 cars. I still expect that by the end of some of these longer straights that they'll be really wishing they had a little bit less wing on the car. As the GP1 cars, of course, now relatively quick. We'll be seeing them in the next session here shortly.
Yeah. Ryan, one of the things we haven't mentioned yet, so we've got something of a field reporter for this qualifying session. Our friend Brad McCall of Round 3 Racing is down in the pits in the paddock feeding us information through this 2-hour window here, these 2 qualifying sessions, and actually has been doing some of the best work we've seen yet in terms of getting us prepared for this session. One of the points he made, well, 2 of the points he made. One, we want to go back to that Moorhead Ginetta we saw leaving the pits earlier. 2 cars on the entry list for them this weekend, the 190 and the 290. Unfortunately, it looks like only the 290 is going to take part. The 190 having some type of an engine issue or engine failure early on today, or early on in the weekend, that's rendered them just uniginetted, if that's a word we can put together.
I'm not
singular
not a fan of that.
Ginetta. Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, we've only got the one, the number 290. So keep an eye out for that car. As you said, we're going to want to get a sense of how quick that car is in this type of qualifying trim. The other point to be made, and that Brad did a great point of explaining to us, is that these GTO cars, being heavier, can get their tires switched on fairly quickly, almost whatever brand. I mean, it almost doesn't matter what type of tire you run. They'll get themselves up to temp reasonably quickly, and you can go out and set yourself up to lay down a flyer basically right off the bat. That's not the case for these GTU cars. We see this at the start of many of our early season morning races. It takes so long for them to get their tires up to temperature and to get those cars competitive that by default you're basically setting the NP01s up for a slightly longer run so that they're hitting their peak overall, 6, 7, 8 laps in rather than lap 2, lap 3.
Right. Which makes sense. You want to have that pace when the field starts to get spread out a little bit more. It's easier to make passing decisions when the field's not all bunched up. You can, start to take advantage of the tires being warm when you're, one-on-one trying to make decisions cutting through traffic, as opposed to trying to get it that little bit earlier when it's going to be a struggle either way because you've got cars, left, right, and center all over the place. We did just get another update from Brad that the 70, the Porsche 991 Cup car, is still in the garage. They're trying to change an axle.
It's actually just left, Ryan.
Oh, it has just left.
Yeah, about 60 seconds ago. Saw it here clearing the pit lane. So
trouble. That's an
automatic NP01.
It's not an Aston Martin. It is an automatic car.
Old habits die hard, man. We've been at this too long. Yeah, that is the 909, the only Aston Martin. Oh my gosh, the only NP01 from automatic. It's gonna be a long weekend, friends.
They said it was a Sebeco, but Aston Martin, they've put a lot of work into it. So now there's an argument about whose car it is. Like in 2011, obviously.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is rebadged exactly the same. Yeah. Automatic Eastern Europe. We like
I hope
that.
they have a big check, and I do mean Thomas Inga.
That's very good. I forgot about that bit. It was a good bit.
It was a good bit. Like 3 people in the paddock understand that joke, and that's okay. That's for you 3. You guys can keep that one.
Time's not improving at the moment. Your number 2, which we had word was former Ford GT factory driver Billy Johnson.
Yeah.
The Tangerine Associates car there up in P1. Still 220.874. There it is on screen, actually. Just headed out to the left side of shot. We have seen that car now in a fair amount of traffic over the first couple laps. There's the Roberts Motorsports number 109, just leaving the shot as well. I do wonder here if traffic is kind of scuppered a few of these early laps. GTR 99, nice to see them back on the grid as well. Second place in GTO, third overall. Oh, and a waving black flag. On black flag all. And a safety vehicle leaving from pit lane.
And I believe this is the Stoic car right here. I don't think they've turned in a good lap yet, have they? Not a good one, anyway.
No, not representative.
Yeah. They have a black flag continue around board, so that's good. And here comes the JDC Miller Motorsports banana boat. That's not what that is. That's the other automatic car, I believe.
Do you have any eyes on where this might be, Jordan? Oh, it could be the stop 909. Maybe it's a little bit further up the hill here. Oh, you know what, Ryan? That's not a continue around board. That's the back sign of the exit at turn 5 board.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And they have them clear into the paddock or the grid back over there at 5. Watch. Step. Oh,
right, and they just...
Oh, they pulled it in.
Weird.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe it isn't the backside. Maybe that's maybe they have a continue around or exit at 5 board. Anyway, I was going to say that kind of throws a wrench into things. You really you can really mix up the track running order if you do something like that. Have a couple of cars come into the paddock and then exit back out at grid. That's a tricky one. A couple of cars ducking into the pit stalls here. We also had a note from our friend Brad McCall earlier, Ryan, about a couple of teams setting up for a longer run but changing drivers partway through.
Mm-hmm.
So you give
This is going to throw a wrench into all that, especially if you've gone out there and taken your time to try to find your gap so that you can get a good flyer with no interruptions. If you've spent all this time trying to find that track position, trying to plan for these driver changes and stuff, having this black flag all / red flag situation here is going to be a problem for that for sure.
Yeah, really the only I mean the drivers are really going to be the only ones that can give you a kind of feel as to whether or not they got their best lap in before the black flag, right?
Right.
If you've got a driver that started the session, was able to get 2 or 3 representative laps in, they're really the only ones that are going to be able to say, yeah, I got 100% out of the car, or 98% out of the car, or I hit traffic, at 8 and 9, I was stuck behind a car all the way through the carousel, whatever. Then you've got a decision to make. If you feel like the first driver got everything out of it, great. Switch it over, send somebody out and see if they can have a crack at it. If not, then you've got to decide, okay, do we send them back out, try and get a proper lap in, build themselves a gap out on track and try and put in a 220 or a 221 here. It's kind of going to be a real-time decision. From the looks of things, it actually just kind of looks like we're looking at tires and tire pressures, maybe temperatures here on the pit lane. Not seeing a lot of driver changes at the moment.
Indeed, we've had some people move around and just go right back to pit out. They didn't even bother.
There is the 909. So that's exactly what we've thrown the black flag for. One of the other points that's worth making here, we had an opinion-based text from Brad during that black flag about the status of the number 70 round 3 racing Trimtex Porsche, and Brad felt like they had a good gap and were able to go out there and put a good lap in on a fresh set of tires.
Yep. As we go back to green here, Brendan.
We do. And unfortunately, that lap was shut down by the black flag. Same thing goes for the number 290. The Moorhead Speedworks Janetta came out into the session a little bit late and not able to get a time in other than the a 2:39.4 was the early lap time for that G56. So a couple of cars that we'd expect to contend, I think, Ryan, for not just the pole position, but race wins and podiums tomorrow and Sunday. Kind of getting what's the word I'm looking for? Compromised.
Yeah.
By the black flag here. Yeah. There's a better word for it. Make your choices wisely. Your GTU pole sitter, as we mentioned, is still that number 109 Roberts Motorsports NP01. Hosed, thank you. The second place car, Stratus number 60, back in 8th place overall. 222.215. So almost a full second between your GTU class leaders. Stratus number 58, third place in class. GTO, it's still that number 2, which I wonder if they'll send that car back out or if they think Billy Johnson's early lap was enough. Actually, it is still stationary in the pit lane. So interesting move there with it's about 14 minutes here left on the clock. GTR 99, second place. Kingpin Racing, the number 11 Toyota Supra, third place in class, and the number 74 BMW of AOA Racing, fourth place. That'll be outside of the second row tomorrow morning. 91 FPRS Motorsports. It's a new gen, current gen, I guess, GT4 Ford Mustang in fifth place alongside the second of the Kingpin Racing Toyota Supras. That'll be the Rob Walker Racing affiliated Supra. And shouts to Rob Walker as well.
Yeah.
Quickly becoming a friend, a real friend of DriversEye Live. Onboard cameras, covering or being involved in apparently most of what DriversEye Live broadcasts now.
I suppose so, yeah.
We saw him 2 weeks ago at the Porsche Club of America club racing event down at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. He sent us another email about running a Porsche Owners Club event at Willow Springs that we'll be covering here in about 3 weeks' time. So apparently just Rob Walker's race schedule follows or mirrors exactly the DriversEye Live broadcast schedule, which you'll have to see.
We're pleased. We're pleased with that.
Yes. Kicking off a triple header weekend, by the way, for DriversEye Live. Just the second time we've tried this, and, predictably, one of our camera techs is stuck in Charlotte trying to get to Oklahoma, but dealing with thunderstorms. We're up here covering qualifying at Road America, and, of course, Porsche Club of America with a one-day broadcast tomorrow from Lime Rock Park, which will be a debut event for us, or debut track for us.
Yeah.
With DEL, so...
And who's taking care of that, Brendan?
Do you know the name Matt Wood by chance, Ryan?
Yes, I do.
Yes, that'll be Matt Wood, local to Lime Rock Park. I was up there. I drove from Pennsylvania to Lime Rock on Wednesday morning, set up all the cameras and the booth without power, because the track didn't have power on Wednesday. Left there at 4 o'clock, got home at 7, showered, packed, and then was on a plane at 6 o'clock in the next morning to come here.
Lovely.
So we're going to see how it all goes. But so far, so good. We're 1 for 1. But more on that during the WRL podcast hour. In between our Grand Touring and general production qualifying sessions.
Boy, am I excited for it.
Yep. We're on a couple of flyers here with coming down towards 10 minutes on the clock after the black flag interruption. See there, center shot, that's a TLM Racing BMW M4 GT4, which I think I'm right in saying is now the third manufacturer we've seen associated with those TLM cars. For a while there, I think they were in Porsche Caymans, then they were in the current spec Aston Martin Vantage GT4s, and now moving over to the M4 GT4 platform with that solo 172 entry. 77 just in behind it. We haven't really touched on it yet, but let's hang on this camera shot for just a second, Jordan. The new curbing is on display here on the exit of the kink here at Road America. Ryan, are you familiar with the term grasscrete?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what that is. If you were to imagine pavers, like backyard pavers with a bunch of holes in the center of them, that's essentially what it is. So you're getting something like concrete with a bunch of holes that allow grass and dirt and that sort of thing to filter through. So the grip goes away, but not to the point that you're going to end up dead sideways, unlike the BMW we just came through shot there. So it essentially allows for cars to run a little bit wide. They do lose a little bit of grip and traction, but it also doesn't throw up a giant cloud of dust, which obviously led to a pretty serious incident down here between turns 11 and 12 last October. So we like safety innovations, we like progress here, and the good news is it doesn't look like it's fundamentally changed the approach to what is arguably, one of the greatest corners in North American motorsports. New provisional pole time in GTU still belongs to the 109 from Roberts Motorsports, down to 220.104. Round 3 racing finally gets that clean lap in. First lap out of the pits for the round 3 Trimtex Porsche, 220.199. So for the overall provisional pole, we are less than a tenth of a second apart. The number 2 ACP Tangerine Associates car, which has been sent on its merry way, I believe, 220.874 is still the provisional time from that car. Billy Johnson, wonder if Billy's going to get another crack at pole here out of the pit lane on tires that have done a couple of more laps than the round 3 Porsche has, but can find some clear air here. I think the opportunity is there for us to go and try and reset pole. Stratus 58, 59, 60 now in order, 4th, 5th, and 6th in the overall order. The second team, or I guess the third team, as far as GTU goes, behind that trio of Stratus cars, be the round 3 racing number 1, and then followed by the sister car number 10. 2 of the automatic racing. I didn't see the 908 earlier today, but it's definitely out there.
Yeah.
Just saw it on camera.
Well, that was the yellow
a minute
one,
ago.
right?
It is, yeah. And
Yeah, it was circulating before the yellow.
Yeah, for some reason I didn't see it this morning. I thought maybe they were just down to 1 car for this weekend, but yeah, no, right up and amongst it, and a good showing for that duo from Automatic Racing back at Mid Ohio 3 weeks ago. Was able to get themselves well up onto the GTU podium after some issues for both the round 3 cars and the Stratus cars in some pretty challenging conditions during our last event. So we can filter by class here and get ourselves just a no, we can't on Red Mist because it's set to sort by laps complete, not time.
Yeah, I was just looking for how to change that.
Yeah, you can't. That's a feature request. Brian!
Yep, indeed.
You can sort by class, but you can't sort by fastest lap time. Yeah.
They've been posting good content on Instagram lately, if they're
Red
shot.
Mist?
I mean, Big Mission, anyway.
Oh, Big Mission, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I was actually kind of surprised to not see them here. We do have, if you're
It's a
going to
long
take
tow. Well, it's not that bad.
WRL stalwart teams that we don't, we see here and there. Bruce Innovations in town with a couple of Mustangs.
Yeah.
Number 111 is here. At the moment, in certainly in GTO, sitting down 19th place overall, and of course on the desktop app, you can't sort. Oh my goodness!
Can I get a Glenn McGee update from Bruce Innovations? Like, is he just too big league for them now? Now he's just doing Super Trofeo all the time, and
I mean, wouldn't you?
I mean, I don't know. I like hanging out with the guy. He's a cool
Glenn's a good
guy.
dude. We like Glenn. The number 111 down in 13th place in GTO at the moment. Finally got to the right app and the right sort option. Your top 10 in GTO at the moment looks like this. Number 70, round 3 racing Porsche from number 2, ACP Tangerine Associates. AOA Racing and GTR 99 slated to start on the second row of the grid. That's 3 BMWs right in a row. Followed by the Kingpin Racing number 11 and the 91 FPRS Motorsports Ford Mustang. Kingpin Racing 77, followed by 52 ACP Tangerine Associates. And then the 290 Moorhead Speedworks Janetta, followed by the 119 AE Victory Racing Toyota Supra to round out the top 10. 144 Forza Motorsport, who I saw ducking offline desperately to get out of the way of a couple of cars, sitting there in 11th. 92 of FPRS Motorsports there in 12th. And then that 111 from Bruce Innovations we talked about earlier. TLM USA, TCB, Stoic Racing, and Rapscallion rounding out the GTO field at the moment. Round 3 racing, 220.877 in GTU puts the number 1 up onto the first row of the GTU grid, slots the Stratus trio back to 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Whoa.
When was the last time we saw a GTU grid without Stratus cars on the front row?
Oh, have the times changed?
I mean, quite literally. It's the qualifying times have
Okay.
changed. The lap time.
All right.
It's a really good lap there from that number 1, who I'm going to assume is probably at the hands of Carter Peace for this session. It's in the way that Cole, you can make the case that Cole Lofsgaard, Josh Balicki are the shoes in the number 70. I think Carter would probably be seen as the shoe in the NPO1 camp there for round 3 racing.
Sure.
Automatic. Both cars very, very strong back at Mid-Ohio, very, very consistent. Now find themselves 7th and 8th in the GTU running order. Not get too caught up in all this GTU action. It's the session we're actively covering, but I think you could make a case that maybe the feature sessions are still to come. GP1 with 18 cars this weekend, GP2 with 12 cars on their own this weekend. That session will be coming up at 2:20 Central Time. I'm looking forward to a really, really good scrap there, particularly in GP1. You see some of that dust being kicked up on the backside of the new curbing there at the exit of the kink.
Okay, I just had a good idea. Well, off. That's the round 3 racing GTU car.
Yeah, was that sod that it kicked up, or did it tear a little bit of bodywork off the front of that NPO1?
I think it kicked up some sod there. I don't think that was damage. Otherwise, they would have pulled into the...
Yeah, unfortunately, pulled there to the right. You kind of use that access road on the exit of turn 13 to open up the radius of the corner, particularly in those NPO1s, which can go just about flat out through Bill Mitchell Bend at turn 13, up over the curb on the exit. And then if you try to straight line or beeline to the apex of 14, here you see it. You can kind of see the tire tracks there. It looks like maybe the other car just didn't see the number 1 trying to make the move, and the round 3 car had to take to the grass in order to avoid contact there on the way towards 14. Anyway, won't have done any favors for the lap time in that car. Did set a PB, 220.818, but so too did the Roberts Motorsports number 109, which is your provisional pole sitter, still 220.006, 0.2 quicker than the GTO provisional pole sitter of that round 3 racing, number 70 Porsche. Number 2 still in second, has not improved on its quickest time. I wonder if they've taken Billy out of that car and allowed one of the other drivers a chance to go out and do some laps. And that is one of the points of information that we got from Brad a little bit earlier, Ryan, was that not every team is going to go out and try and just send the hot shoe out and go for ultimate lap time. There is an approach here where you're actually just using this as essentially another practice session, and whatever times you get out of it, you get out of it. But the goal is to maximize track time and setup development.
Yeah, there's a lot of deferring strategies on how people use this time. I think there are a certain number of teams that probably would prefer to still have these beat practice sessions where they can cycle everybody in and out. But again, you've got teams that are just opting to use it as a practice session anyway. It's a little bit shorter. But I think a net positive change for WRL here, having these fun little qualifying sessions as we come down to a minute remaining.
Yeah, I pretty universally well received, I think. Back at Barber, we did a little public opinion poll at the drivers' meeting by noise of applause, and it was pretty raucous, all things considered, in as much as a public opinion poll can be raucous. But it was, very well received. We've enjoyed it here at DriversEye Live, and
we have.
Obviously, I think most of the viewership has as well. Under a minute remaining on the clock in this 30-minute qualifying session for the first of 2 Enduros at the Can-Am Endurance Cup at Road America. So cars beginning their lap time now, or their laps now, will be able to finish them and post the lap time. But just about a half a minute away from not being able to begin any new laps. Kingpin Racing improves in the number 11, but doesn't look like they've improved their lap time. 221.626. Still 0.2 off the back of the GTR 99 BMW, kind of picking up where they've left off in the past after a few races away. Improvement as well from ACP Tangerine Associates number 52. AE Victory Racing jumps the Moorhead Speedworks Janetta up into P9 in GTO. 222.850 is the lap time for that all-female crewed Toyota Supra. Improvement as well from the number 144 Forza Motorsport BMW M4. 223.420. That's a slow Kingpin Super, but I think more likely just getting out of the way. Yeah, well, I'd say that. I don't think that car is just getting out of the way. I think that car may be dead stick there between turn 6 and 7. And underneath the Speedville Bridge, the entrance to the carousel, checkered flag is out at start finish. Zeros on the clock. Rapscallion 669 comes through to complete a lap 231.148. Looks like they'll be shotgun on the field here, on the GTO field anyway. Car looks quick in a straight line. Just maybe not the happiest on the way into some of these quicker corners. Number 109, Roberts Motorsports, ducks into the pit lane. I think they're quite happy with the 220 flat that they set here in qualifying. Bruce Innovations 111 comes through, does not improve. It's a good power slide on the exit for the Stratus number 58 of the final corner up the hill. Does that ruin their momentum, or did they get a good jump off of the final corner? They do not, they do improve, but not position. They stay third with a 220.764. Stratus 59 improves just behind them as well. Round 3 Racing number 10 comes through, does not improve. It's a much quieter track than it was even just 5 or 6 minutes ago. I think most of our field will be around the backside of the circuit at the moment. Headed towards turns 12, 13, and 14. TLM USA comes through, does not improve. This will be the number 52 into the final braking zone. Looks like they've backed out of the final lap. And indeed they have. They'll pull to the right-hand side and up into the pit lane. Stoic into the pits, number 87. There's AE Victory Racing. They will not set an additional lap time. They'll call it a day. 908's going to press on, however. The first of the Automatic Racing Sebeco NPO1s. 255.2, that lap time not representative. Can they improve here? Doesn't post as an I think they just did an out and in lap there, actually. 527.3 makes the most sense to me. I think that might just about do it, unless you see any other cars we're missing, Jordan. Around the back half of the lap, or back third of the lap. All right. We got one more. Oh, that's the Stratus 58 and 59 that already set the took the checker. Yeah. All right. That'll be it.
Perfect.
Underneath the Mission Foods Bridge on the cooldown lap. So, we need to belabor the point here, but just as we had it not so very long ago, we ran down the entirety of the field. That is how the session will finish. Round 3 Racing Porsche alongside number 2 ACP Tangerine Associates BMW M4 on the GTO front row. 74 AOA Racing and GTR 99 on the second row. Kingpin Racing number 11 and FPRS Motorsports number 91 to start on the third row. So we go Porsche, BMW, 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 Toyota, Ford, BMW, Toyota, Toyota, Janetta. And it rolls on outside the top 10. Your GTU pole sitter, definitely, without question, without argument, the number 109, Roberts Motorsports, Sebeco NPO1. Really, really good time to set the overall pole position as well. A 220.006 in the round 3 Racing number 1, Sebeco to start alongside with a 220.245. Stratus 58, 59, 60 will round out the top 5 in GTU. Thoughts, Ryan?
A session that was interrupted in the middle, rather rudely, by a black flag that I think, finishing where I think people would have thought. Robert's putting that car on pole. Excellent there for GTU. It is the changing of the guard at the front. Stratus has more miles on those cars than anybody else, but I think everybody, as we kind of predicted at the first weekend, everybody has sort of caught up. And they've been very open about, wanting to help other teams get competitive in that chassis. So it's not as if they made it difficult for people to catch up. They still had the experience, but they didn't want to, keep all these secrets to themselves because it's more fun to race with more people. And we're finally starting to see that cars having better qualifying pace than the Stratus. Now, I still think that in terms of mixed traffic, the drivers on the Stratus team probably have a lot more experience in how to manage that, but it's gotten better and better every event that we've had. So I'm very much looking forward to that GTU battle tomorrow. And the GTO battle, of course, anything can happen, right? You figure we're going to get at least one yellow, most likely. So that's going to jumble up the strategy a little bit. It's just going to come down to consistency, I believe. And we'll see who's running at the front of GTO by the time tomorrow is over.
Yeah, in GTU specifically, we'll start there, Ryan. Brad McCall, I don't know if he played the cards a little too close to his chest or didn't want to give away any of his secrets or what the deal was, but said, expect the 109 to contend for pole, and maybe the number 1 can be competitive, but realistically expect a Stratus 1, 2, 3. They just have too many miles on the car, too much experience compared to the rest of us. And as fate would have it, he was right about the 109, but really, didn't let on at all what the realistic pace out of that number 1 was. Stratus 58, 59, and 60 demoted to a 3, 4, 5. And I don't know if that means that everybody else, in air quotes, has caught up to the Stratus cars. I think over a single lap, getting a driver comfortable in a car can go a long way. The baseline setup that came with those cars is always going to be very competitive. Most of the development work has already been done by Sebeco anyway to get the most out of that platform. This is still all over a single lap, right? Stratus is not unmatched, but it's a challenge to go up there and contend with a Stratus trio over a 7 or 8 hour enduro. And we'll wait and see what tomorrow holds for us. I expect both of the round 3 cars to be competitive, certainly over the first couple of stints. Same goes with that 109 from Roberts Motorsports. We've seen that car be very competitive in the past. Would like to see it there the same in GTU. Up in GTO, the round 3 car appears to have the most in hand, the most to play with. But again, it's a long race. And we saw at the end of Mid-Ohio that... yes, there can be a lot of time in that car if it's being pushed, but we'll wait and see how hard it needs to be pushed. If maybe one of these Kingpin Toyota Supras steps up, we might get ourselves with that number 70 embroiled in a real fight here. So, yeah, let's wait and see.
Look forward.
Yeah, we're gonna transition into the World Racing League podcast hour.
And I will say,
here, Ryan,
This month's World Racing League podcast hour brought to you by the Elk Room at the Osthoff Resort. If anybody in the paddock is looking for something to do tonight at 7 p.m., there's going to be live music in the Elk Room featuring Rob Anthony. Come relax with live music by Rob Anthony in the Elk Room at the Osthoff Resort. Kick back, enjoy a drink, and let Rob's captivating tunes create the perfect track backdrop for a laid-back evening. I think that's what everybody in the paddock needs going into tomorrow. Just a nice time to relax out there at the Osthoff Resort in beautiful Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
Have you been to the Osthoff Resort, Ryan?
I have not had the pleasure, no.
Osthoff? Yeah, I haven't either. I've been to exactly one establishment in the town of Elkhart Lake before. The Bear.
And it was lovely. You enjoyed it.
Bear. Oh boy, Baer. We found it last night. What was it? Oh, Brown Bear.
Yeah, the brewery, right?
No, it's not a brewery. No, it's a
well.
dive
You took
bar.
me to the brewery.
I did. That place is temporarily closed.
Oh no.
But plenty of other breweries are available here in the area.
Yeah.
No, Brown Bear. It was the season-ending meal for us in the SCCA Super Tour last June. And it was towny city, but it was very cool. The food was very, very good. But the kind of place you got to walk into the kitchen basically to order your food. It was very cool. Very, very cool.
Not a lot of places give you the welcoming small town feel like Elkhart Lake does.
That's fair.
Where you can get that kind of experience. So as somebody that lives in the city effectively now, I do miss places like that. And so getting to go to Elkhart Lake and experiencing that, that kind of hometown vibe, I think is really, really nice.
Yeah, other small towns are available. Plymouth, we found an Airbnb 6 minutes from the track in Plymouth. It's the closest I've ever been to a racetrack on a weekend. Except for VIR, where we just stay at the racetrack. I think this is by mileage and by time the closest I've ever been to a racetrack for an Airbnb. It's very cool. And a really nice place as well. So we're going to have cars on track during this session anyway. With if the professor Jordan Worth decides to step away, certainly welcome to do that. We're not going to follow things as such, but this is an HPDE session, high performance driver education. If you're not familiar with what we do here in the World Racing League, throughout the day we run WRL race practice and qualifying sessions that are reserved for cars that are entered in the 15 hours of endurance racing action on Saturday and Sunday. And then the alternating sessions are open for HPDE, which can be a genuine HPDE instructor type experience. It can be an additional practice session with a race car for an additional fee. It can be take your rental car out and see how fast you can get to go on track. Which we don't condone, obviously, but people might do it. I don't know.
Some say series ownership has done it before.
I seem to recall a particular story about a Challenger with basically no brakes by the end of lap 2.
Having mismatched tires.
Yes. Well, that's a given. It's a rental car. I have a CX-90 this weekend that has the alignment knocked so far out of it. It's unreal.
Does it have the straight six?
Does the CX-90 come with any other engine?
I thought you could get the 4-cylinder turbo.
I have no idea.
Anyway, I rented one of those for VIR last time out, and I quite enjoyed it.
A CX-90?
Yeah, you can really hustle that thing. You can hustle that thing down the roller coaster there at VIR.
So I've had a couple of Mazdas this year. This is my, 10th, 11th trip this year. And maybe more than that. I've had a couple of Mazdas. This is my second time in a CX-90. I had one for a trip from Palm Beach up to Sebring, I think, back in January. And I really enjoyed it. Had the heads-up display, the projection onto the windshield, which is, I realize, not a unique thing in cars these days, but it was a nice feature for somebody that's stuck in 2018 with a personal Mazda.
You know what I don't like about the CX-90 is the annoying shift interlock thing that when you're getting out to do cameras.
Gate.
And it won't let you shift as fast as you want to. That was extremely frustrating. Just for balance, I figured I'd deliver both sides of that.
Layla also posited the idea that the noises for the chime, like the seatbelt chime, were just the Mario Kart plink noises, which is kind of correct.
I mean, that's whimsy,
I'm not here for whimsy, Ryan.
Oh, I am. Cars should be whimsical.
We did a walking tour of Dublin on a vacation last year.
Dublin, California, or Ohio?
Yes, Ohio. And this English couple had joined us for this walking tour, which was hosted by a local comedian. It was a real experience.
It sounds like it.
But he kind of leaned into these bad jokes, and one of the English guys was like, "I did not come to Ireland for whimsy."
I came here because I wanted to see the struggle.
Did not come to Ohio for whimsy.
That is true. Does anybody come to Ohio for whimsy? You know where you come to for whimsy?
Elkhart Lake?
Eastern Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Just the whole place.
Is this considered Eastern Wisconsin?
I mean, presumably. I don't really know, if I'm being honest. I just kind of made up a region here.
By the way, can we, while we're talking about things Wisconsin related, can we throw a big RIP out to whatever the current status of Air Wisconsin is?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, that's tough situation there.
Tough scene.
Yeah, it's the pretty iconic regional airline, and actually painted. So they painted one of their aircraft in a retro Air Wisconsin livery, green, orange, and white. Very Irish looking, actually. And they named it El Chapo? No, El Guapo. Whatever the beautiful one is.
Sure.
Now I don't remember. I know one is very different than the other. Yeah, it's El Guapo. Yeah. One of the breweries here brewed a beer called El Guapo.
Okay. Was it a green beer?
No, it was it's literally for the airplane. It's got...
Yeah, I know. Was it green?
No, it was a Mexican lager, the handsome one. McFleshman's Brewing Company.
Excellent.
It was a cream ale. Yeah.
Right.
I would love a can just for the art, but I've yet to find it.
Gotcha. Well, tonight, Brendan, you should consider the Paddock Club for your dinner needs. I've been to the Paddock Club on several occasions, paid for entirely by the team, a local race team, local-ish to this region of the country anyway.
They are here.
Actually, they are indeed.
Yeah.
But the Paddock Club, excellent food. You should consider going there for dinner.
I think we're going to bounce to the preferred brewery in central eastern Wisconsin, that being Three Sheeps. Out in Sheboygan.
Holla at Sheboygan.
You've been there, as a matter of fact.
Is that the one that's in the warehouse?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
They have a place in Milwaukee now, too, apparently.
Ooh, there you go.
Spits of raining beginning to fall, by the way, out there on some of our cameras.
Nice.
They're just
We'll just add to the excitement.
Well, but this is the thing, it's really kind of just done this all day.
Right. I mean, it is that season, late April in Wisconsin, on the lake, betwixt the lakes.
Mecha Good says, what, no spotted cow? I will drink a spotted cow, but I also can go to Three Sheeps and have Three Sheeps Fresh Coast, I think is their flagship West Coast IPA. Which is very, very good.
Do you know, speaking of spotted cow, I just recently went to the Sea Otter Classic, which is the premier cycling...
Spotted cow and sea otters are different animals completely.
Correct.
Right? These are not
which is the premier cycling festival in the United States, supposedly. Lots of the top-tier gravel races there in the country. And indeed, some would say the world. Some people are saying it. I don't know. Anyway. Trek was there. They had a booth. And Trek, of course, being a Wisconsin, I believe they're out of Waterloo, Wisconsin. Trek bicycles. They had spotted cow at their booth. And not only did they have spotted cow, but once you had taken one of their expensive bicycles for a test ride, which is where they just kind of give you a $8,000 bike and say, hey, well, cool, have fun. And they just kind of let you wander Laguna Seca with a bicycle.
People do it with cars. It's fine to do it with a bike, right?
It's a little bit easier to steal a bike, Brendan. Like, I could have put it in the back of my expedition and left.
I hadn't considered that.
Additionally, you have mountain bike courses there of varying difficulties, and I think it's a lot easier to destroy an $8,000 bicycle.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Anyway, after you finish there, they give you a fake pull tab to win a prize or whatever. I won like a $20 gift certificate by playing the pull tabs. But they were excited that I knew what a pull tab was, and I explained that I had spent time in Minnesota, to which they initially gave a squint, like, oh, Minnesota. But then they realized, but we're in California. Minnesota's okay in this context. But I was one of the few people there who understood how to use a pull tab. So if you're in Wisconsin, take the opportunity to learn how to go play pull tabs at the bar.
I've never heard of this thing.
You've never heard of this?
No.
This is incredible. I bet they have pull tabs at that brewery. So go to the bar, ask them, do you have pull tabs? And what you're basically doing is spending between $5 and $10 on this little piece of paper that's like a little cardstock thing. And then you peel back the 3 halves of the cardstock, and it's like a mini slots game, basically. And if you match all the symbols or numbers or whatever they are, because there's different ones, then you take it back to the bartender, and then they pay you whatever the prize was for that grouping of symbols.
Interesting.
So it is gambling, genuinely.
And I want to be clear, the words you're saying are pull, P-U-L-L,
tab, T-A-B.
Yeah, okay.
Pull tab.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're about the
other
size of like a
names
scratcher
for the game
ticket.
include Break Opens, Nevada Tickets, Cherry Bells, Lucky Sevens, Pickle Cards, Pickle Tickets, Instant Bingo, Bowl Games, or Pop Opens. And that's Pop with 3 Ps.
If you said Lucky Sevens in Wisconsin, people would know what you were talking about, but I don't think I've heard any of those other ones.
That sounds much closer to a cigarette brand than it does a...
That's Mild Sevens.
Yeah. Oh, and Lucky Strike.
And Lucky Strike,
combined
yeah.
the two. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
That's a good livery. That should be
Which
a livery
one?
on iRacing. Lucky Sevens, and it's like tobacco inspired. But
it's just
pictures
the
of pull
BAR
tabs.
1999 livery with the zipper,
Yep.
with the 555 and the Lucky Strike. Yeah.
Well, the 555, I think of that as Colin McRae and Richard Burns.
I mean, it was almost one entire BAR entry.
Yep.
But then it became half of 2 BAR entries.
Well, because there is a rule in the F1 rulebook that both cars have to have the same livery.
Yeah.
which I think is lame. I would be okay if they had different liveries if you had to keep the same livery for the whole season.
Yeah.
Like, you want to run a split there, you know.
Well, yeah, no. I like they keep the same livery. Maybe you have to keep the same base livery, but you can change like a color. Like I'd be cool with that. Like if the McLarens reverse the orange and the black, like I'd be cool with that.
Okay, yeah.
You see what I mean? Yeah.
Yes, I do. I
Or
think
if
the
Ferrari
should
could
look
run an all red with one with white wing main plane, one with black wing main plane. Like I'd be cool with that too.
See, I would look for it to be more similar to how like Penske does their Indy cars, where they're like the same livery, but the colors are disparate and the sponsors are different too.
Yeah.
But like you can kind of tell that they're the same, you know.
Yeah. GT1 Catfish 2004 in the chat. It's a username with two of my favorite things, GT1 and the year 2004. Catfish is also fine. Says, Three Sheeps is better than Spotted Cow. That's definitely true. Big fan of Three Sheeps. And also says, every year Road America sinks some dollars in upgrades. It really is making the best track in the U.S. even better. So I don't know about you, Ryan. The first time I was here was 2021, which I think was the same year for you as well. You came up with us.
Yes. No, because I went in 2020 for that.
Oh, that's
weird
right.
IMSA race.
Yeah, we're trying to beat the thunderstorms. Yeah, I remember all that. Yep. Right. So you and I would have kind of seen Road America in various different guises there initially.
Yeah.
But at the time, they were preparing for a NASCAR Cup weekend. And, I mean, the fine folks here spent, I don't know how much money they've invested in the facility over the last couple of years, but they've now built at least 3 new bridges. One, the new drive-over bridge on the front straightaway. They've got the new Speedville bridge, the entrance to the carousel, and then the Mission Foods bridge on the backside that allows people to get over outside of the carousel and kink into the Mission Foods. I'm going to mess up the official name of it, but it's the beach area there on driver's left.
Love it.
New fence line put in all over the place, new parking areas, new hospitality areas. They've got these little mini cabins on driver's left on the front straightaway here that you can rent for a weekend and camp in. They've got new pavement going in right here on the exit of the final corner. This garage and paddock area at the bottom of the hill here is all going to be is graded out now. I'm really the track has steadily become a not fundamentally different place, but certainly one that is keeping up with modern standards, and in some cases, I think many cases, exceeding modern standards. Never mind the completely new track surface 2 years ago.
Right.
It's not a place that ever seems to stay still, and they do a good job publicizing the upgrades and making them count, not just for competitors but for spectators as well, which is very, very cool.
And they're able to do that whilst only having 60% of a year to play with. Because you spend the time basically from early to mid-November all the way through March and sometimes even into early April that the track isn't usable because of the weather. I mean, not for road racing anyway. It is usable in terms of, I believe they do like snowcross and they have like ice motorcycle racing, and like there's kind of winter events that they do, but nothing that draws the same amount of income as having a track day or a race or whatever. And so they're able to do all these upgrades while only having part of the season to work with, which I think is quite excellent.
Yeah, and I think they're kind of driving the modern racetrack experience, right? We see, a place like Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, which is obviously where we were just 3 weeks ago, had taken some heat over the years for not putting money into the facility and letting things kind of fall by the wayside. And now they realize, A, we can't do that anymore because the track needs the upgrades and the maintenance, but B, all of their competition for track rentals and things like that are putting money back into their facilities and making them better, more exciting, more amenity-filled places to be. And I think places like RA just kind of push the overall perception of motor racing in the United States forward. Quick off and on there for one of the Mustangs at the exit of the last corner. I'm sorry, not the exit of turn 3.
It truly is the national park of speed. And like I think of that in a very literal way. There's a lot of... I'm trying to think of how to put this. My daughter is not someone who can sit still and watch racing in a grandstand for 3 hours. Like, it's not going to happen. She will get bored. There is so much to do in the confines of Road America that it's one of the places that even if I was working, like even if I had to do, you know, one of these events with DriversEye Live, I would happily bring my family here and just be like, cool, bring your bikes. There's plenty to go do at the track. If you don't want to be at the track, you can go into town. There's stuff to do there too. But you could, you know, bike around this place endlessly over the course of one of these weekends as like a spectator. It's truly incredible. You know, as a spectator with somebody that has my sensibilities, which are more that I would like to go experience things and explore and have a good time, as opposed to go sit at a vendor area and spend endless amounts of money. Mecha Good in the chat mentions the disc golf. Yeah, exactly, 100%.
I forgot about the disc golf course here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally forgotten about that. Catfish 2000, GT1 Catfish 2004. Love or hate a full repave? Depends on the place.
I was going to say, we're going to try to lock you into wanting to repave Sebring here as a take.
No, that will never. Absolutely not. No. That will not. We're going to leave Sebring just like it is. Forever. The permanent part of the, I mean, it's all permanent now, but the non-concrete part of the circuit, if that needs to be repaved, okay. You know, that's whatever. But that's not why people go to Sebring. They don't go to Sebring for the asphalt. They go to Sebring for the 1947 blocks of concrete that make up the last circuit lap. So I was just at Road Atlanta for the second time this year, 2 weeks ago, and every time I'm out on the circuit setting up cameras, it's like, you know what? There's some new patches here and there. It was last repaved in, I think, 2006 or 2007, and at the time I remember it being brand new and very fresh, but that's also 18 years ago.
Yeah, that's a little rough.
I forget sometimes how long it's been. Even Mid-Ohio, right? It was 2006, 2005, 2006 for the last repave before this recent one. And it's like, on one hand, yeah, it was just repaved not that long ago. And then you remember that was actually 20 years ago, and that it's time. And it's okay that it's time.
Yeah. You know.
It is. I mean, even Road Atlanta, right? If Road Atlanta needs to be repaved in the next 5 years, so be it. You know?
I was thinking more philosophically about that. Like, time marches on, and I would prefer that it didn't, just generally.
For sure, but also it can't go on forever. Like, even Atlanta Motor Speedway, like, I know that was the subject of a lot of debate in the NASCAR world. It was going to have to happen eventually, like it or not. Like, it just was. But
we have NASCAR correspondent Jordan Worth with us.
That's true.
Jordan, can I get your Atlanta takes?
Would you like my Atlanta takes?
Yes,
Make it 1996 again. That's what I say.
Well, current Atlanta is one of the best races on the whole calendar now.
You just say that because Carson almost won.
Well, but it's really good.
Yeah, it is good.
It's fun to watch. And they did need to repave it because it was like falling apart.
Yeah.
Same thing with Auto Club. They didn't need to completely demolish it, but they did need to repave that at some point coming up. Anyway, so
I did a little bit of a moderate dive on Auto Club, and SMI is currently saying that it would cost them nearly $350 million to redo that facility, and that's on hold right now.
The ISC.
And then I realized, I'm sorry, ISC. You're right. Yeah. And then you look into it, and they sold the land around the track for like $500 million.
Yeah.
So the worst they could do is come out $150 million ahead, and it still have a venue there.
Yeah, but now they could not have a venue there and come out $500 million ahead.
Right, exactly. So it came up as a side discussion in a group that I'm in that's mostly transit focused. And so I finally got to weigh in with like, well, hey, I'm in the racing industry. I'm an authority on this, and so I had to do some research on it. And it was like, yeah, they just don't care. Like, they don't want that to be there. I think the lukewarm reception of the Coliseum race has led to that decision.
Yeah. So, two quick notes. One, the rain is picking up here, and when we get to 220, here in about 20 minutes or so. I think we're going to see a real banger of a GP qualifying session. Question in the chat: GP cars, the prototypes? No, those were the GTU cars, the Sebeco NP01s that we saw in the last session. Feel free to go back and check some of that out. Fastest overall time this afternoon, set by one of those Sebeco NP01s. The GP cars are your production cars, general production, and those will be the cars much more like your road-going cars. In fact, all of them built up from road car shells. Anyway, second item I wanted to touch on, Ryan, we can open this can of worms now.
Sure.
You want to talk Willow Springs?
I did not listen to the podcast that I was going to listen to where they had the exclusive interview yet. So
Okay.
I can talk a little bit about it, but not to the degree that I had hoped.
No, I mean, it's topical because we were just talking about the Auto Club situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, Irwindale has closed in Southern California as well,
Finally.
right?
They've been gonna close
know.
Irwindale for like 15 years.
I know. It's like Rockingham. It just keeps coming back from the dead. But now I think it's done. And it seems like, particularly in Southern California, racing is becoming something of an afterthought, and it's never been in very heavily in the public eye. Fontana was obviously a big deal in the early days when kart was around, just because it was an absolute banger of a race.
Right.
You know, Irwindale was a really cool short track. Mason Marin up in Bakersfield hosted the truck series there for a number of years.
Well, I mean,
Ontario,
you've got,
Riverside.
Ontario, of
what's it
course,
called now,
Riverside.
though?
Yeah,
It just keeps
exactly.
going.
I mean, yeah.
You've got Kevin Harvick's
Kern
is that
County.
Bakersfield?
Raceway
or
Park?
Kern County, yeah.
It's
yeah.
wannabe Mason Marin.
Right.
Right. So, and then obviously Willow Springs has all this crazy history attached to it, going back to the earliest days of the SCCA in the 50s and 60s. And while everything else in Southern California, as far as the racing availability and infrastructure, kind of appears to be literally crumbling.
Right.
You have a racing focused, it's private equity, be clear, but racing focused and racing passionate private equity coming in to acquire Willow Springs and to do motorsports with it. And specifically, they've made the case that, hey, this is it for Southern California. Like, this is all Southern California, other than, Buttonwillow on the other side of the mountains, but this is all we have. We should be doing everything we can to make motorsports in this part of the country accessible and great.
The difficulty that they have, I realized this when I was at the Sea Otter Classic a couple weeks ago, where I thought of the things that I could have done that week, and I was a little peeved that I couldn't go to the Long Beach Grand Prix, because I've been talking about that. I enjoy the Long Beach Grand Prix. I think it's a great event. I think part of why it continues to be successful is because it's an event. They have fans, they have drifting, they have the racing, they have the expo. It's very easily accessible by public transit. There's lots of parking in the neighborhood around, so you can get in there. You don't have to spend $200 on a parking pass, all that stuff. Genuinely, preferred parking pass at the Sea Otter Classic was $250 a day.
Yikes.
Which was insane. But there was that going on. The Dodgers were in town.
Yeah.
The Padres were in town. The Giants were in town, which is Northern California. But you figure this kind of 4 to 6 hour range of things that you'd want to do for a weekend. In addition to, early mid-April being the time that you want to go to the beach because the weather's nice. So the issue with having any type of sporting event at all in California is that there's so much other non-sport stuff going on that not everybody can be everywhere at once. And I think the other half of the problem is the Long Beach Grand Prix continues to do really, really well because it's in town. Now, if you live in Orange County, it's kind of a hassle to get there, but you can do it. If you live in LA, you can take the train to get there, and it's probably a 30 to 40-minute drive. If you're asking somebody who lives in Los Angeles or in Orange County to drive out to Willow Springs, that is a nightmare drive. That takes forever to
I'm
do.
going to be there in 9 or 10 days.
Yeah.
I'm flying into Burbank, and it's an hour and 6 minutes. I know
With
it's
no traffic. With no traffic.
Oh, well, you leave Burbank and you go through the mountain, so
right.
Whatever. You're probably not going to hit much
But if
there.
everyone's trying to get out to Willow Springs for some big event,
Yeah.
that road is going to be overwhelmed instantly, and that's from Burbank. That's not from Santa Monica or
to
you
be
know,
clear,
Irvine.
yes, I agree with you. I agree with you, and obviously that makes a big difference. If you're coming from, you know, like a Santa Ana or somewhere like that,
Yeah.
Anaheim, like you said, yes, absolutely, it's going to be a 2.5, 3 hour ride. I get all that. And I don't think anybody's.
I think it's
I
gonna be
don't
more
think
than that.
anybody's positing the idea that Willow Springs needs to start hosting. Like, they don't need to become a grade 2 or grade 1 circuit and start hosting
Right.
international sports car racing, but. I know that money is being invested to upgrade the safety. They brought in Alexander Wirtz to do all the safety and upgrade consulting for the venue. That's huge, right? He's not coming in with a, yes, let's keep it the same mentality.
Right.
I think you can keep the nature of the track the same and the vibe of the track the same while generating or creating a safer, more modern place for cars to go race that looks and feels like what you can see and watch on TV. It's not like Buttonwillow East, right? It's going to look and feel much more like a place you want to be. Even like Riverside was before it was torn down. I mean, it was very spectator friendly. Yes, it was very brown, and yes, it was very fast, and there was a lot of runoff, but there were grandstands everywhere. I mean, it was a place to go genuinely watch motorsport. And whether or not they attract top tier or want to attract top tier sports car, or let's even say like a K&N or ARCA West or whatever it is now, right? I think at least upgrading the track and the facilities will, as somebody just said in the chat, being outside of LA, give Southern California a motorsports venue, an attractive motorsports venue to continue going to. Because it needs multiple things. It needs infrastructure, it needs upgrades, it needs accessibility. And if you can get 2 out of those 3 done, then you can work with the accessibility challenges, knowing that your property is likely not going to come under threat for at least another couple of decades.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I do think that it's going to be a long road. I do see them transitioning to a VIR style venue.
Sure.
Wherein there's condos around. And like that's the thing is, in spite of them not doing great, you have Spring Mountain and Thermal doing fine.
Yeah.
And like Thermal, IndyCar keeps pushing this race at Thermal that I think is terrible. It's a terrible format.
I don't
it's a terrible
know that
race.
That's even an argument.
I have said that since the beginning. And people in California keep telling me, oh, well, you know, that's all we got for IndyCar now. You know, we got to try to... I'm like, no, I don't have to try. That's not a good event. And there is a good event. One of IndyCar's best events is, 100 miles away, and it's great. Yeah. And so it doesn't have to be like that. And I think, that there's a little bit of folly there in that, like, oh, well, Thermal's... That's the F1 crowd. That's the F1 money people. We can go there and make all this money, which is true. But that as a venue is doing fine because you have the country club, for lack of a better term, aspect to it. And I think if you're going to try to inject some of that into Willow Springs the same way that VIR has done, where it's not strictly a country club track, but they do have residents there. And it is set up in a venue in that way. That's going to work a lot better. And then you have the folks behind Singer, the Singer Porsche re-engineered folks that sell $1 million 40-year-old Porsches. Their crowd does want a track to go to, and if they have more control over it, they can probably get more track days out there. A big problem with Willow Springs as far as track days are concerned are if you go off, you're going to break the car. If you drive out there for a track day in your Mustang and you put a wheel off in the wrong part of Willow Springs, you're going to break stuff.
I think that's part of what they're trying to correct here.
And people desperately don't want that. And it's one thing if you're in a Mustang, it's another if you're in I stretched so I could afford this BMW M4.
Right.
Like you can't go out there and do 20K of damage just out there trying to have fun. Like Thunder Hill has that correct in California of all the tracks. Where if you go off, like, you're in the grass, it's embarrassing. But like there's no walls to hit. There's nothing to, Yeah, so I think it'll be better in the long run. I'm disappointed the way that they have chosen to treat the existing tenants at the track who I think have probably allowed the track to remain open longer than it could have been because you had people who were really dedicated who wanted to be out there running businesses out there, really helping that community of racing people continue to do it. And so I feel for them especially. I hope they will have a seat at the table moving forward, but from what it sounds like, they will not. And that's not really what I want to do. GT1 Catfish 2004, there's no good spots to stay or places to eat anywhere close to Willow Springs.
That's not true. Have you ever been to Lancaster, California?
Yes, I have. So
one of our best friends is from Lancaster.
I agree with that too. It's a tough market. It is raining now. Like this
Sure
is rain.
properly. Yeah.
And to see Harrison out there, like that's their jam. They
Well,
love
why
it.
not? Go get
Yeah.
a feel for the track conditions. Go
absolutely.
find the grit because you're going to be out here in 10 minutes doing it competitively.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, big move from Harrison.
But there's also lots of tracks that don't have good spots to eat or stay near them, and that's Hallett, Mid-Ohio. You know, like that's part of the nature of racetracks in this country is that they're in remote locations, and that doesn't seem to stop them from carving out a living.
No. Genuinely, the only time I've ever heard stuff like that come up is talking with SCCA folks about the future of the SCCA runoffs. Right. And that's specifically because you're taking a generally amateur motorsport size circus and multiplying it by 3 or 4, where instead of 3 or 400 competitors, or let's say 300 competitors, you've got 1,200. Right. And instead of 60 volunteers, you've got 200 volunteers or 300 volunteers.
Yeah.
Right. There are places that can support a club racing environment generally, like you said, a Danville, a Hallett, a place like that. But when you scale up to be even a moderate jump up from truly amateur racing to like a semi-professional promotion, you end up with trouble there in terms of how much the local surroundings can actually support.
And that's
I don't know that Willow Springs is headed that direction. I do agree a little bit about the treatment of the current tenants, but I will say again, like DriversEye Live is going to be there in a week and a half, and broadcasting from there next month. Right, our first broadcast from Willow Springs as part of a partnership with the Porsche Owners Club, and I have heard 0 negative things from our new friends at POC about the status of things at Willow Springs. I'm sure that
they're associated deeply with Porsche people. This is the correct group to run the first event at Willow Springs under the new ownership. Like this is fair. As smooth as it can possibly run.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyway, I'm not saying it's going to create like a huge renaissance of motorsports in Southern California or anything like that, but we had this discussion with Glenn Concert back at High Plains. Towards the middle to end of 2024. The reason High Plains is where it is because the urban sprawl of Denver gobbled up 2 or 3 of their other existing racetracks, and they were left with nowhere to go long term but to a place that was never, ever, ever going to come under the threat of that sprawl.
Right.
And the larger these sort of metro areas get, Bridgehampton in the 90s out on Long Island, Sebring's not under threat there, and Homestead's probably not under any threat either, but there are places close to major cities that this is a real concern. Willow Springs, as was said, is in a place where it's probably not ever going to come under threat by being on the other side of the mountains there. And if you do have, you have a huge population center. A couple hundred or thousand of those people are bound to be motorsports fanatics or people with a lot of money that want a good place to go drive their cars. And if you're telling me that you can have a place with a good, safe place with a bunch of money invested and some reasonable history to go along with it that is never going to close or is going to be there long term, then I think it's a good solution. It may not be the perfect solution, but it's a good solution towards keeping a track that wasn't sustainable in its current model open and giving motorsports a reasonably safe place to exist long-term in Southern California. And I think that's all good things.
I think so, too. I think having an alternative to Button Willow for club events down there, it will be nice. The closure of Auto Club, the closure of Auto Club impacted a lot of club racing and track day folks as well.
Yeah.
Because they ran the Roval there frequently. Like, that was a big deal at that venue for the Southern California crowd. And so I agree, having Willow Springs continue to be open will be a net positive. There is going to be some changes, but there has to be in order for it to work. Yeah. I was just thinking about, you were talking about where can you place tracks that there's sufficient infrastructure to run racing there when you have a large event. And I think of Sonoma, honestly. A track itself that people are not tremendously fond of as like an experience, like in terms of driving. I never hear a lot of like, oh, I love Sonoma Raceway. I think that's a great track. Like, I don't hear that. But with the way development in Marin and Sonoma County and Napa County up there has been by law stopped. It's a track that's in relatively a safe position. They're not likely to close it anytime soon because of the way the development works in that part of the state. And it has the infrastructure to, hold all those people. The same thing as Laguna Seca. They come for Laguna Seca about every 7 years or so.
Yep.
And at the final hour, the county board of supervisors says, no, that's not happening. We're keeping this.
Yeah.
So there's clearly an appetite to have those kinds of things, in California. Those are both a ways away from Southern California, where Willow Springs is. But at the same time, I think about Road America, for example. There's people who will go to Road America for track days from Minneapolis because it's a big track and it's near them, and that's a 6 or 7 hour drive. You're talking about the same kind of distances that you're working with on the West Coast as far as being able to access this type of place. And so with that knowledge, having that there to where people from San Diego, if they want to make the day trip, can still make the day trip to a good venue, I think is all good things. And I think as they build that track, the amenities in Lancaster will get better and make that more and more of a fun venue moving forward.
Yeah, to tie this back into Road America as we get set to head towards GP 1 and 2 qualifying here, I think there are multiple elements towards making a racetrack sustainable in the long term in specific areas. Number one is being good neighbors, and that means different things in different places. We're covering an event up at Lime Rock Park this weekend where it actually just means being quiet and not running races late in the day. And at Laguna Seca, it's kind of a similar sort of thing. But at Laguna Seca, sometimes it also means bringing in a bunch of money to the local area. It means hosting a couple of major events a year, like the Laguna Seca or the Monterey Historics, excuse me.
Yeah.
Sea Otter Classic for the bicycles, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sonoma, obviously brings in a bunch of money through the NASCAR event that's held there. But it also means being out of the way and not making noise about wanting to expand or do more of this or more of that. You look at VIR. WRL doesn't go to VIR anymore, and they've been in something of a. They don't have trouble attracting, track rentals or anything like that, but they held a rock festival there a couple of years ago that turned out to be a PR disaster.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
And everybody that was involved in that will probably tell you the same thing. It was unfortunate. It was a really cool concept, but it just didn't work. And the overall takeaway from that was that it was not a value add for the local area having an event like that take place under the circumstances that it did. Yeah. So there has to be a fair amount of, smart and reasonable promotion in that direction as well. And in some cases, it means, giving people with fast cars who like to drive their fast cars fast a safe place to be that isn't the roads at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And giving them educational opportunities and things of that nature. And you know what? If that means places like New Jersey and like was just said in the chat, VIR as well, if those sorts of places need to put up condos and garages and all these sorts of things to make themselves sustainable and to attract those types of those cars and drivers and personalities to their venues, then, hey, so be it. I think that can still be a really good thing for all of us in the long term. It's certainly been good for them. It's good for potentially good for Willow Springs. We'll wait and see on that one. Lime Rock Park, I was just up there. They're building new garages and condos on the outside of West Bend, which is very, very cool. I just think it's everybody's got to take their local circumstances into account. Road America doesn't need the big garages and condos and all that. They do enough community involvement and outreach. And for here, sometimes it's just a cool place to go camping for a weekend. Yeah. It's not always all about the racing all the time. Sometimes it's about being outdoors and hanging out with your family, And
it's not even necessarily condos either. I think you remember how Thunder Hill has been making their money over time, right? Those garage spaces go up for sale every couple years, and they're sold out instantly.
Yeah.
And that's not close to any major metro. You could argue it's close to Sacramento. Not really, and Sacramento's not that big of a place.
Are there condos for sale and garages anywhere else in Northern California? Do Sonoma and Laguna Seca have similar offerings?
Laguna Seca absolutely does not, because it's a public facility. Sonoma does not have that, to my knowledge, but I don't think Sonoma's hard up for money at this point.
Sure.
They do a lot of PR events there, and they do a lot of driving schools, stuff like that. So I don't think they're hurting, but I think tracks that are in a situation where they don't have that big community nearby, or where they don't have those kind of secondary income streams, probably do need to start looking at this condo thing as a solution. I mean, look at Brainerd, for example. Brainerd, under new management, they decided, like, hey, we have to make this profitable concern, or we're going to have to close the track down. And they've built condos there that are making sure they keep the lights on. That's a good track for that community out there. Honestly, if it was up to me, I think Mid-Ohio should probably build condos, if I'm being frank about that. Yeah. I don't think they own enough of the land around it to do it in a reasonable way.
Yeah.
But I think that's really what it takes nowadays to have a racetrack remain open, is you have to have that year-round income stream, whether it's Sonoma because the weather's really good and we can have hospitality events there year-round, or it's Brainerd and you got people paying for condos year-round.
Yeah. It's getting
12:20.
An announcement over the PA system. I think it's announcing the start of the qualifying session. As you said, Ryan, proper wet now.
It is wet. And these are, of course, the GP1 cars, which have a varying amount of driver aids. To some cars having none at all because factory ones are not, fit for purpose, and others having, I think there is an aftermarket standalone option for driver aids in production cars at this time. That's expensive, and I know there's a modifier for it, but I believe some of these cars have that.
Yes. I know there are a couple of cars with ABS, but not TC, or they've got the factory TC turned off, but they leave the ABS on. Even in a performance environment, it's still advantageous to have. If you were given the choice here, you'd want the GTO and GTU cars to be out there in the rain, rather than the production cars, generally speaking, I think. But we'll see how this all kind of comes together. Two classes of competition, GP1 and GP2. GP3 is also listed up there in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. We have no GP3 entrance this weekend. I think we've successfully, organically completed a migration to a two-class production structure with GP1 and GP2. And the classes, both of them, are deeper for it, which is very, very cool.
This might be the one track where it being rainy and having a front-wheel drive car helps you a lot less.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I don't think we have any front-wheel drive cars, actually.
There's two at least. We've seen them go through. There's the Civic, and then there's that Elantra
the
right
Hyundai
there as well.
Are the proper performance cars both out there? I know we had heard earlier that they may not be able to. That those cars wouldn't be ready for qualifying.
There was a red Civic running around right there. Yep.
Oh yeah. All right.
And the Corvette, of course. Two different theories on how to make a production car. I still think there's an angle here where somebody could build call it whatever you want, a Mid-Ohio only car, like an Audi TT, that's all-wheel drive, that when you get these weird rain races, you just clean up, and then the rest of the time, you come 7th or 8th, but you're still getting track time.
I mean, ostensibly, those were the TCR cars in GTO.
True, but I mean, in general production, something you can do yourself.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, that is true.
Or buy an old Pearly World Challenge TCA or GS or whatever they called them back then. Or it was the production chassis, but they had all the goofy drivetrains and stuff. Also, am I right in saying there's no Porsches this weekend in the Joe production class?
No, there's a couple of them. Flying.
Oh, there is.
Not
okay.
Flying for BSR 981.
Okay.
Has the Cayman.
Yeah. Okay. Frozen Road. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Is Frozen Rotor out there?
No, that is BSR.
Oh,
sponsored
BSR
by Frozen
Rotor.
Rotors.
Yeah. Okay. That may be the only one actually.
Got it.
Now that I look at it. But we've taken the green flag, and flying laps are set to begin. In as much as you're going to have flying laps in these sorts of conditions, I have to assume that most of what we heard from Brad McCall via our text messages earlier, Ryan, is kind of going to go out the window here, and not so much that the track conditions won't reflect a similar sort of approach, but we're not even racing at this point, right? Your goal has to be to preserve the car to be able to go racing in the dry tomorrow and Sunday. And so why would you risk trying to go out and set a flyer now in really tricky and challenging conditions and risk having the car end up in a ball in a concrete or Armco somewhere on the side of the track.
I don't disagree, but also track time is track time. You've already towed all the way out here. You've done the thing. You're here to drive.
We just had an update in the chat regarding the proper performance guys. Apparently, guys and girls, apparently it's a Honda SI. They had to go back to Ohio late last, I'm going to assume that it's supposed to say last night, for a backup car. And I think they had two on the entry list, the 27 and the 39 again. And I don't know if they're all just all hands on deck getting the backup car up and running for this weekend to have both cars out there, or what the situation is. But those were really, really competitive entries back at mid-O. And yeah, odd not to see them out for qualifying, but it certainly seems like they have bigger fish to fry, given that it's a Friday in Wisconsin.
It is Friday in Wisconsin. I miss a good fish fry, man. I really do.
It's not even Lent anymore.
It doesn't matter. You still do fish fries.
I
do fish fries every Friday,
yeah.
like just for fun.
Sure. Yeah. Not quite representative lap times, but lap times nonetheless being set. Palomar Racing, 3:19.611. I think that's going to be an outlap for them, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see lap times here pushing high 250s and into the 3 minutes.
Yep.
Given that these are A, slower cars than our Grand Touring cars, and B, the conditions are that much trickier.
The wing on that TC Klein BMW is enormous.
Thank God for that wing, because it's about the only thing I can use to tell it apart from the open throttle cars.
It's smaller. It's a different car.
I mean, it is a different car, but
it's a 2 Series, not a 3 Series.
On an iPhone, 60 feet from the edge of the track.
I mean, I can tell.
Yeah, no, you can now. Every now and then it'll catch me out. BSR Racing puts in the first representative time, 3:06.277. Auto Prep Club, 195 in the C5 Corvette. 3 minutes flat, 0.675. Layla and I saw that car first thing this morning when the green flag dropped at 8 o'clock. We're like, what is that thing? Didn't recognize it at all. Bright metallic sort of fuchsia on its cherry red, we'll call it. That's a good call. Better than fuchsia. There it is, headed into turn number 3. It sounded awesome, obviously. And looks like it's kind of got the goods for pace as well. At the moment, 5.6 seconds clear. That BSR Racing came in. TC Klein, number 112, into third. Ryan, we talked about electronics just a few minutes ago. That is one of the cars, being an M240 IR, that you could probably make a case has a slight advantage in these types of conditions.
Almost certainly does.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Same with the AOA and the TC Klein and the AOA car, both.
It's specifically a racing cup type car. A couple of years out of date, sure, but yeah.
A place for them to go racing, you know. I cannot wait for those cars to start to do better, because I think there's a wow. Well, you say that they've got the advantage on the traction control, but they did well to hold on to that one.
That's the M2, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of those cars are out there waiting for a home. Of the 240 IRs and the M2 competitions, there's lots of them for sale always. And I think as soon as those start to come to the front of GP1, excuse me, that will become a good option for folks to move forward with. That's my take, and I'm sticking with it.
Oh, proper performance. There we go. Derek Wagner Racing. Proper performance won't be qualifying today. Green, number 27, won't start. Team drove back to Pennsylvania to get the number 39 black and blue Honda SITCA. Yeah, okay. They will be ready. So it looks like it was only ever supposed to be the 27, and they had to go back for the 39 when the 27 wasn't going to be good to go.
Got it.
In the Pittsburgh metro area is what we hear. Well, I mean, I guess being in Pennsylvania is better than not being in Pennsylvania, but still the wrong side of the state.
Yep. Jordan Worth.
I say that to my wife, whose family is mostly from Pennsylvania, or from Pittsburgh.
Gotcha.
Anyway.
Jordan doing well to follow the pride of Maple Plain, Minnesota, around this track in the
North Loop Motorsports?
North Loop Motorsports BMW 330i.
Yeah, one-time full-season entrance in the World Racing League.
Indeed, the champions. Champions.
Yeah, very, very good point, yeah. New GP1 pole sitter, Palomar Racing, number 38, to the top. 254.370, Harrison Motorsports, the 392 BMW V8 that we were just talking about during the end of the HPDE session, using some of that extra track time to their advantage. 2:57.118 goes outside of the GP1 front row. North Loop Motorsport, as you just mentioned, Ryan, leads GP2 at the moment with 3.7 seconds in hand over the 196 from Club Sport. And the HART sponsored car, Honda Auto Racing Team. Wait for this Auto Prep Club Corvette to come around, see if it can improve on its time. Now, having slipped back to third place provisionally in GP1.
Well, it already went through.
Oh, did it already come through again?
It was ahead of the North Loop car.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, 2:58.5, down from the 3-minute flat it set earlier. Yeah, I don't know. That Palomar time is going to be really difficult to beat.
It is a handling car they've built, and I think correctly for this qualifying session. It reminds me of, I still would love to know what year it was, at Thunderhill when the qualifying was in the rain, and a team from, I believe, Seattle had their BMW that had the huge tunnel, like the underfloor tunnel coming out of the rear bumper, like the rear bumper and part of the trunk was cut into to have the escape for the air from underneath the car. And they said, yeah, we just designed all of our cars to be in the rain because we were in Seattle.
Yeah,
so
sure.
They're all built for the rain. And they had beat one of the Super Nutter ESR things.
Low, was it? The Low Auto Group?
It might
I think
have been.
we had this discussion.
We have had this discussion before,
Yeah.
but I could never find what year that was. But this is kind of the time that reminds me of that, where if you have a car that's really set up well for the rain, you can do a lot better than you might ought to. And that Palomar car is a car that is down on power among the others in its class because it uses the older, lighter chassis and a little bit less powerful motor, but that doesn't seem to have impacted them. Their driving skill, as well as probably the setup on the car, contributing to having them at the front of the field. They just improve again to a 253.
I don't know that anybody's touching that number 38 today.
I don't think so either.
And coming to something of a swan song for that car, we know that the 38 is being replaced. We talked to Nick back at Mid-Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
The cards were kept fairly close to Nick's chest there, but we do know that eventually that 38 is going to become something of the prototype for whatever the future holds for Palomar. So looking forward to that. But obviously not lacking for anything at the moment, and certainly in these conditions. 392, 195 still there in second in the BSR Racing, number 981 on the second row. Flying Fur Motorsports rounds out the top 5 in GP1 with the 112 from TC Klein Racing. Now 6th place. Change for second with the C5 down to a 255.2. Jumps the Harrison BMW to go now 2nd place to the outside of the front row in GP1.
17 minutes remaining here, so a lot of time left to try to get a better lap time laid down. But one of the things that you'll be asking about if you're a longtime watcher of WRL with DriversEye Live is usually we have a dry line forming by now, but we've got half as many cars on what's a pretty long track. So that dry line is really, I don't think, going to come into play at any point in this session. Even if it stopped raining right now, I don't think it's going to be dry line.
Well, so a couple of things. First, it was never going to be a dry line as such, but you're trying to move water off of the racing surface from, an HPDE session that had very few, if any, participants by the end of it.
Right.
So you're just accumulating water while the track isn't being used. You've got to go out and put some tracks down, let's say, try and move some of the water off of the racing line itself.
Wow, that was
they've done
deep.
Successfully. As you say, we've got half the number of cars that we normally would, but also it looks like as we get a car off there behind the timing tower.
Yeah, people are getting pretty aggressive on the brakes into this turn. And
that's exactly what I was going to say, Ryan. Not just here, but everywhere. As the rain begins to let up a little bit, you know that over the next 16 minutes, the track conditions, all things being equal, are only going to improve.
Yep.
Right? So stick with this for a while. Keep putting laps down and trying to improve the overall quality of the racing line so that, by the end of this, instead of doing 253s, 255s, 3 minutes, you can be doing, 250s, 251s. But it's going to take consistent running over this period and a a consistency in the current conditions, I think, for that to end up being the case. Also, driver comfort plays a lot in this type of condition as well.
North Loop Motorsports still 2 seconds out in front of the number 65 of Open Throttle Racing. That being the new design 3 Series with the 4-cylinder.
For Northloop?
No, for Open Throttle.
Oh, for Open Throttle, yeah, sorry. I was going to say, Northloop still looks like a Spec E46.
It does.
And now
that is now, I can just tell from looking at it, a mishmash of the new car and the old car. It's got the old cars.
The blue trunk.
Yeah, with the trunk. They've gone for the arrow. They put the arrow back on. So that is the old car's arrow with the new chassis.
Yeah. GP2 at the moment still being led by that North Loop Motorsport BMW, ahead of the 65 from Open Throttle Racing that Ryan just mentioned. Club Sport, number 196 Honda in third. Front-wheel drive coming in handy there. Actually, that car may be able to challenge for pole if they stick with it. The AOA Racing number 851, Mazda MX-5 in fourth. And then the number 106 Brian Herta Autosport Hyundai down in fifth. That car is in the pit lane, as is now the number 24 Bruce Innovations BMW 235i. Been a minute since we've seen that car, but happy to have them back. Along with the other cars in the Bruce Innovations suite. The number 555 Mustang is out there in GP1 at the moment. That's, I think I'm right in saying, is the X-Core KOHR entry.
Yes.
The 111 is also here this weekend. Yeah,
speaking of triple number entries, I'm a little bit disappointed that TLM has not brought the Triple Light out to Road America.
I ran into David down at registration yesterday, and I meant to ask him...
How'd that go?
Fine. I did mean to ask him a whole bunch of questions, and every word he said, and he made new questions I wanted to ask. Number one, I can tell you that in the number 172 this weekend, the sole TLM entry is one Jeff Altenberg, 2007 Speed Touring Car, Speed World Challenge Touring Car Champion.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Jeff's name appear in a little while, so cool to see him out here. And we'll be featuring this weekend, obviously. But questions I had for David for TLM involve, number one, just one car this weekend, question mark. Number two, it's TLM Mona, which used to be the 888 entry.
Right.
888, sorry. Now in the 172. At the time, I hadn't realized that it was a BMW and not an Aston Martin. So that's question number 3.
I didn't realize that at all.
Yeah, it's now an M4. We mentioned that during qualifying. It's an M4 now.
Right.
It's not even the...
It's not even an Aston Martin.
Aston Martin Vantage, yeah. So, I don't know what the driver lineup is like. I know the 888 was at the FARA event at Sebring 2 weeks ago. Like the old blue and white one.
Or a week ago.
Yeah, sorry, Easter weekend, yeah. So I have a lot of catching up to do with David to understand exactly what the situation is with TLM at the moment.
Sure.
The car number is the same. It's still the familiar red with the vaguely martini theme to it. But yeah, many more questions are going to have to be answered. If only I had a way to get in touch with David where I could just ask him questions.
Tough to reach David.
It's a tough draw, huh? Your GP1 times have not meaningfully changed. Palomar Racing has reset the pole time, as we thought they might. 251.9. That car's obviously going very quickly, but I think that's got as much to do with the ever so slightly improving track conditions as it does with anything else. Now 3.2 seconds clear of the Auto Prep Club Chevrolet Corvette, which is down into the 255s still, actually. The Harrison Motorsports in third, the only 3 cars to be clear of the 3-minute barrier. Ginger Racing number 46 pops up into fourth to displace the 981 BSR Cayman at a 301.398. And then the TCS Motorsports number 22 in sixth. To 271 is the thousandths. There. Easy for me to say.
North Loop only a second adrift of TC Klein's time.
Yeah, TC Klein being the
time,
112
not their
in
best
GP1.
time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Best times, sorry. Only about a second adrift of the 85 of AOA.
Yeah. Yeah, and to the points we've kind of had here, Ryan, AOA number 85, that BMW M2, 309.540, 851 AOA, the Mazda MX-5, 315.442. So you're taking what at one time was a GTO class car, right? The BMW M2.
Yep.
Cup entry. And in these types of conditions, at a power-heavy track, it's only 6 seconds quicker than a Mazda MX-5 Cup from 2009.
Right.
I mean, that's
a lot of car. It is a heavy car.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that's
true.
a handful to try to be on top of at this track.
Yeah, that's a good point.
In the wet. Damson Racing
Resets-
Communications, I think, just exiting the pit lane.
did have an onboard for them earlier, but it's a YouTube-only onboard at the moment, so... Yeah.
Of all people, they should understand that that's...
Sure. I mean, they are communicating.
They are
Visual.
communicating.
It's old friends from Thunderhill days.
You love to see it.
Palomar resets the pole time 250.8. Wonder if most of these teams kind of filled fuel-wise for this scenario. Basically, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to go do the whole half-hour session, we're going to see what the conditions present themselves as, or if a couple of them decided, hey, we're just going to go put a time in, whatever it gets us, it gets us. These aren't the conditions we need to be running around in. I will say, I think this is the first time that the weather has kind of played a role in qualifying here.
Yes,
I mean,
indeed.
This is not, if you knew Saturday, Sunday was going to be completely dry, previously a 2:20 in the afternoon practice session that's completely
empty.
yeah, zero cars, exactly zero cars. And yet, we've now had the entirety of the GP1 and GP2 fields, or near enough that, out onto track, because this is the only way to set the grid now.
Yep. Now, fortunately, in WRL, you don't have to be worried about the big one, TM, and qualifying at the back of the field doesn't necessarily put you like at risk on lap one. I've seen very few multiple car incidents into turn one in WRL. Like, it's
I can't think of a single one.
probably one of the things they're best at is keeping the carnage out of lap one, turn one.
Yeah. So I
So
mean,
you don't really even need to qualify if you don't want to, you know?
yes and no. I mean, that does go both ways here. Cast your mind back to last weekend, dear casual viewer or listener. If you watched the FIA WEC weekend from Imola, I did not get to watch much of the race, but I did watch qualifying on Saturday morning. One of the things that got mentioned was when the number 50 Ferrari GTB car had its lap times deleted for track limits. One of the comments that was made almost immediately by Graham Goodwin when that car got knocked out of Hyperpole was, Megapole. When it got knocked out of Hyperpole, one of the things that got mentioned was that actually might take this car out of contention. Being strung to the end of a 19-plus or 20-plus car hypercar grid, the amount of time it takes to get through the field at a track that's notoriously difficult to pass on, like Imola, might put that car 50 seconds or a minute behind by the end of the first stint, just by virtue of being back in the pack, so to speak. I mean, that is so much time to lose when things are uber competitive. Now, I realize that this isn't WEC and GTO isn't hypercar, right? That's fine.
Well, I mean...
But we've seen races decided by a lot less than that. And yes, safety cars have a role to play, no question about it.
Sure.
But 50 seconds in the first stint could be the difference between you getting caught at the tail end of the lead lap in a safety car queue or something like that, and not. And
right.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. Yes, the turn one carnage is not likely to play a role. It rarely, if ever, does in the World Racing League. But having an unrepresentative lap time that you don't get out and give it a go during qualifying being 18th on a grid can absolutely impact your opportunities for a good result at the end of the day.
Ooh. So just recently, I'm sorry, Brendan, to go back to racing here. The Palomar Racing number 83 had put in a 310.3, which put him only about 2/10 off of Northloop's time. And then the 106, Brian Herta Autosport, turned in a 310.075, So we've now reshuffled the top 3 in GP2. The 65 of Open Throttle now down in 4th. But you've got the Brian Hurd Autosport front-wheel drive Hyundai currently holding down first place in GP2 with about 5 minutes to go in the session.
Brian Hurd Magma Racing.
Yeah, it just says Brian Hurd Autosport on the...
Can we start the rumor that Brian Hurd Autosport is going to go from WRL GP2 to running the Genesis hypercar program?
Yeah, I think we can start that one. That's fine.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, under a tenth of a second between the 106 and the 21. The 106 was not, I mean, in its ultimate form, was not up at the tippy top of GP2, but you'll take the assistance from the front wheel drive, I think, here, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mist hanging in the trees there on the way out of Canada Corner, headed up into turn 12, out of 12 and into 13.
The mist
Vibes. Vibes. It is a vibes shot.
Welcome to April.
Transitioning immediately to the Austin Straubel International Airport in Green Bay. Yeah.
Speaking of spooky play, no, I got nothing on that. There's no joke.
I mean, this weekend it might be. Did you watch the first round of the draft last night, Ryan?
I did not. No, I was doing homework.
So we did, and they did. The NFL draft did what I think was objectively one of the funniest things ever. So obviously, a defensive player whose name escapes me from the Chicago Bears team in the '80s that were dominant. It wasn't Walter Payton. Steve McMillan, I want to say the guy's name was.
Urlacher?
No. Steve McMillan. Yeah. Steve McMichael, thank you. I knew it was something very similar to that. I'm not a Bears fan from the 80s. I'm a Raiders fan from the 90s.
Gross.
So they wanted to pay tribute to him, obviously, as you do. And it was very appropriate. And then they leaned into the 50th anniversary of Walter Payton's draft, being drafted. So they made all of the home Green Bay fans in the first round of the draft, primetime event, in their home state, at their home stadium, sit through like a 3-minute soliloquy on why the Bears were so great for so long. And in part of it, in a division that like is so built around just raw hatred for the other, it was perfect. It was absolute cinema. Thoroughly enjoyed. 10 out of 10, no doubts. It could have been any team, it could have been any state, but the fact that they did it like for that rivalry in that part of the country, it was really, really funny.
Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding.
Patrick Lewis, never been to Road America. They have decent cheese curds and poutine. Decent cheese curds. Poutine probably want to go to Canada for, I would think. Is poutine popular here?
If Canada Corner, you can get poutine here.
Do we see poutine? Oh. Okay. I'm big on put the fries, gravy, and curds. It's fine by me.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd have to go to Trois Rivières, I think, for the the home hub. WRL Trois Rivières when RJ. Yeah, exactly. Correct. 2 minutes on the clock, Ryan. New pole sitter in GP2. AOA Racing number 851. The MX-5 jumps up to a 308. 387, and
Almar and Northloop both improving, but not enough.
Yeah, so we go from being under a tenth to now under half a tenth for the GP2 pole with completely different cars. 851 leading 83. Then Northloop in third, 106. Brian Hurd Autosport in fourth. And don't lose track of the other two cars. Two of the other cars there. Open Throttle Racing 65 and Club Sport number 196 there. P5 and P6. It's all happening within five and a half seconds of one another. Off goes Blaze Racing at the exit of turn 8. That car was brought back on a flatbed just before lunch. So it was immobile, not just 3 or so hours ago.
Yep.
Good to have that car back out on track. Palomar still leads in GP1, the 250.8. Harrison still in second, and then Auto Prep Club and the Corvette there in third.
Auto Prep Club Speedway.
Auto Prep Club, sorry. Auto Prep, what did you say? Auto Prep Club Speedway?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair. Northloop comes through again, improves the time, but not the position.
They're going to get another shot at the apple here, or another bite at the apple, rather.
Well, if you're, who shot the apple on the head? Isn't that a thing? The bow and arrow shot an apple on somebody's head.
Yes. I couldn't tell you who.
Happens in
but,
Mulan, and maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I've never seen Mulan.
Happens in Mulan. Let's get down to business.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Is Mulan different than Moulin Rouge?
Yes,
yeah, then
very
I'm
different.
Trouble. Then I'm in trouble. No.
One would say that those are two different sides of femininity. Femininity?
Correct.
Femininity? Femininity. Feminine.
Do. Zeros on the clock, just in time.
We were getting there.
Truly got off the rails. Checkered flag waves, and we get the last times in GP1 and GP2 qualifying. Palomar number 83 lights up the rears on the exit of the last corner. Up the hill comes the 106 as well. If I were the 106, I'd be in that slipstream all the way up the hill if I could. This will be the last opportunity to go for pole for Brian Herta Autosport.
No, they can't do it.
They do not improve.
The 83 does. They go to 307.
Yes, takes GP2 pole at the checkered flag, 307.746, and instead of being half a tenth off, they are over half a second now to the good over the 851 from AOA Racing. Is there anything left in the Mazda MX-5 from AOA? On this final lap, coming towards the checkered flag. Anybody to pick up coming out of Canada corner here, Jordan?
Yes, somebody. Multiple somebodies.
Yeah, we'd be looking in this case for cars not in the pit lane. I think it's the 85 going through the shot there. There's North Loop,
so
is still going to be on a flyer.
This is going to be quite a little finish here.
Yeah, Ginger Racing's in there as well. They're potentially on a flyer.
That's the Bruce Innovations car. Followed by the North Loop and then the...
Well, it's open throttle, then TC Klein. Here comes the 85.
TC Klein and then, TC Klein and then open throttle, yep.
Yep. So I think this should be the last sort of gaggle of cars to come through and pick up the checkered flag. See
That's
the
AOA BMW there, the M2.
Starter gets the checkered flag way up in the air and waves. 24 comes through. Does not improve. Good time, but not an improvement. Stays 10th. Open throttle 64 comes through. Also does not improve. 85 from AOA. 255.788. Fourth place on the GP1 grid. North Loop.
North Loop goes to the front by a 10th.
Takes away the pole position from the 83 of Palomar Racing by almost exactly a 10th, as you say, Ryan. 307.647. And the Minnesota-based squad with the, well, erstwhile anyway, Spec E46 BMW takes the GP2 class pole at the last possible moment. An all BMW front row in GP2 there. I don't think the Brian Herta Autosport car has taken the checkered flag here. I think they'll have ducked into the pit lane, as did the Ginger Racing number 46. Possibly one more car to come through here. Yep, out of 13. Is that the 22? TCS Motorsports, I think it is.
Yep.
They finish out the lap, or do they duck into the pit lane?
They're going to duck into the pit lane here. So that about wraps it up here.
And that's Blaze, number 118. They'll pull into the pit lane as well.
Yep, that's the AOA car.
Yeah.
They're going to pull in. Yep.
And even if they were on a lap here, I think they had already come through and taken the checkered flag. But
so this is just the cleanup here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, recovery. I don't think they were really in it there off the final corner. So,
excellent.
Two things here, Ryan. First,
a great GP2 qualifying session.
Exceptionally clean.
Outstanding.
First and foremost, the thing that matters most, especially in these tricky types of conditions, you never really know. It only takes one misstep to find yourself in trouble, which nobody did. Very impressively, number one. And number two, GP2 qualifying absolutely delivered the goods over the last 10 to 12 minutes or so.
Yep. Absolutely incredible. You've got the number 21 of North Loop Motorsport making their return to WRL once again after a couple of years of tough luck for them. Putting it right back on pole, picking up where they left off. Followed by the 83 of Palomar Racing. Again, one of those cars that doesn't have the power that some of the other cars have, and it just doesn't seem like it matters. They're able to get the handling out of that car and keep it competitive on pace. So I think that's going to be the battle to watch tomorrow especially if it stays dry. I think those two cars are going to be duking it out for the GP2 honors. The 851 of AOA Racing, followed by the 106 of Brian Hurd on Autosport, then the 65 of Open Throttle, the 196 of Club Sport, and the 936 of TCR. And then, Brennan, I'll let you run down the GP1 order here.
Yep, it's Palomar Racing, number 38 on pole, alongside the V8-powered BMW of Harrison Motorsports, number 392. 4.3 seconds is the margin there.
And I'm sorry, I asked you to run down this, and I have a comment now.
Yeah.
I have to imagine if it stays dry that's not going to be how that stays.
It absolutely, even
that
even in race
392 is
trim.
going to have the lead going into turn 1 by a lot.
Well, I mean, it's uphill basically until you get to pit out here.
Yeah.
Some of it's more steep than the rest of it. But, yeah, you would think the torque out of that V8 is going to get it clear of the Palomar 38 by the time.
4 seconds more pace.
Yeah, I mean, that's
incredible.
That's going to all be down to braking, cornering, and being able to get the power down in tricky conditions. 195 Auto Prep Club does exactly the opposite of what Palomar does, and takes a big V8 powered Chevrolet Corvette C5 to third place on the GP1 grid. Looking forward to seeing that car in race trim tomorrow as well. Of course, we've seen really competitive C5s in that class. It's a good platform for the GP1 class, and yeah, we'll see what it delivers from the inside of the second row. The 85 AOA Racing BMW there in fourth. I can't run down the rest of the order because they've just reset Race Monitor.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's tough. Dave McDaniel having
me.
Absolutely none of it.
No, he's
nothing
out.
to do
he's
with
head to Seekins.
A lengthy rundown. But it was great. I mean, really good, especially second qualifying session here for GP1 and GP2. Stay with us for Q3 knockout qualifying. No, don't do that. Right. Super mega pole. Can we get it sponsored by like local grocery stores? So this could be like, instead of Hyperpole, it's Hy-V pole. And then
that was
if
an
we,
okay
if we
one.
go if we
That
go
one
to
was
pit
all right.
race, it can be Giant pole.
Cub pole.
Well, but Eastern PA is Giant. NJMP could be Giant pole. Watkins Glen could be Wegmans pole. That's less exciting.
Wawa pole.
Publix pole at
Publix
Sebring.
pole. Yeah, I was trying to get there on that one too.
Ingles pole at Road Atlanta.
Yep.
Tops pole. Oh man, we got this, man. We got
Heb
this.
HEB or Heb pole.
For $8, you can have your grocery store chain. Hy-Vee's out of the IndyCar race at Iowa anyway. We can.
Are they really?
Yeah, you didn't.
They
you didn't
put
hear
all of the promotional might behind that. I think that is going to become a problem.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But it did a lot for that event. Anyway, that should have been covered during WRL Podcast Hour, which we appreciate your company for as well. I bet you, Ryan, if we kept this going for another 2 hours, people would stick around and listen.
I think so too. Do you know,
maybe
I was watching the viewership, and viewership was climbing while we were doing Podcast Hour.
I think it's a genuine cry for content.
The people love to hear us. They love to hear more
content. They do. Many are saying. But instead, the content you get is me and myself, Brendan Kazmarek, Ryan West, Jordan Worth on the ones and the twos, Layla Kazmarek with us this weekend here on social media, taking you through GTU qualifying, the WRL Podcast Hour presented by DriversEye Live, I guess, and the GP1 and GP2 qualifying to wrap things up for the Friday action here from Road America. A couple more practice sessions to come for the rest of the day. I think it's likely to be a quiet afternoon here, given the moisture that's fallen. But of course, tomorrow, as Jordan Worth rightly says, more Road America. 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern.
7 a.m.
Ryan,
Pacific.
for you, it's 7 a.m. Pacific. Exactly.
Much better.
8 hours of racing to come from the Can-Am Endurance Cup. At Road America, it is something of an opening weekend here at RA, and the fourth round of the 2025 World Racing League Championship season will kick off here right on DriversEye Live at 9 a.m. Central Time. Of course, if you're up early with your coffee and your breakfast, you'd like to catch more racing action, triple header weekend for DriversEye Live. 8 a.m. Central Time, we also kick off the SCCA Super Tour down at Hallett Motor Racing Circuit, a favorite of the WRL in years past. Also some PCA Club Racing, Porsche Club Racing to come from Lime Rock Park tomorrow afternoon as well. Thank you for joining us in the chat. Thank you for following along. GT1 Catfish 2004. Enjoy the Three Sheeps and Cheese Curds till tomorrow. Happy to buy you a beer if you find yourself at Three Sheeps. Come say hi. In any case, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will see you bright and early tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Central Time at Road America. Until then, take care.